trapped in a room with these actors. This is Tim Matheson, director of Behind Enemy Lines Columbia.
And this is Mr. Kennedy. I play Chief Carter Holt.
And this is Joe Manganiello. I play Lieutenant Sean Macklin. And there's the 20th Century Fox logo with the Star Wars music underneath.
Can we say that?
Yeah, they own it. Yeah, actually,
nice.
they do own that.
Sweet.
What's this logo? Wait a minute.
What is that?
WWE
Studios.
That's right. It's Studios.
Empire. Actually, WWE Empire.
Now, did you introduce yourself as WWE superstar,
I did
Mr.
not.
Kennedy?
However, thank you for.
I just want to...
Just give him a body slam, would you? Now, we decided we needed to set up the movie by putting this background information about Columbia here. So we made a documentary style and put this in here just so that the audience would understand that this takes place in Columbia and really what the political dynamic is in Columbia.
And then you kind of pray that the conflict doesn't get resolved by the time the movie comes out.
Yes.
This works well.
Yeah.
Stephen Bauer.
American soldiers are frequently deployed to assist in anti-narcotics and anti-guerrilla operations, and the American government has posted over $70 million of reward money for any information leading to the capture of FARC leadership. The Colombian people frequently take to the streets to protest the FARC.
I guess it'd be interesting to the viewers to know that no Colombians were killed during the shooting of this, but we kill a lot of Puerto Ricans.
Although with its massive cocaine revenue, the FARC has been able to equip its army with the most modern weapons of any terrorist organization in the world.
Here we are in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Right. That's the first moment of Mr. Kennedy on camera there.
Yeah.
Mr. Kennedy's Virgin Voyage.
This wasn't the first thing we shot with you, was it?
No, we shot the jungle scene was the first.
That's right, of course.
Yeah, this was like later on in the shooting, I think, even, right? It was pretty late.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second week.
Yeah, because we had girls on the set this day, and that was like a big deal. It was like,
Right.
There's going to be girls after like a month of shooting.
We're just guys. Enough of this.
Guys.
It was extremely hot out there, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted to start the movie in the mix so that the audience wasn't aware that this is who these guys are, what's going on. We're in the middle of so-called operation.
I got him. If I engage now, this thing blows wide open.
And I remember walking down the street in this scene, there was this guy in a red ninja suit who walked out. Do you
Yes.
remember that? The red ninja?
Yep.
There was a ninja, like he had a ninja mask.
Spidey.
It was like 100 degrees out, humid, and there's this ninja walking down the street. And I just remember I didn't want to make eye contact. I was worried he was going to stab me with a katana or something.
See the jump point.
But this is great. It sets up the characters, too, I think, because this is what they normally do anyway. And now it turns out, we'll find out shortly, that they're doing it to their LT to set up a birthday party.
Supplies.
And that guy in the U.S. Navy parachute team shirt is Jeff the Navy SEAL, Lieutenant Jeff Reeves.
You should talk about him because he was a consultant. He was a buddy of Joe's who helped with all sorts of information about real Navy SEALs. He was almost our unofficial tech advisor.
Yeah, pretty much.
There was a bunch of scenes where I would be doing a movement and he would come out and say, hey, you should do it this way because this is the way we would actually do it in real life. So it was great to have him on set.
Well, then there was that whole thing Jeff says. You know, well, but Jeff said to do it this way, so it was like anytime anything went. But Jeff said, and actually there was a few times with our own military advisor Tom Minder, they kind of had some conflicting views on how it was going to go down, and that phrase. But Jeff said came out a few times.
Tom's great. I mean, we had a guy named Tom Minder who was our Navy SEAL tech advisor, who was a former Marine. So he had tremendous knowledge about the SEALs, but maybe not as current as Jeff did. And so,
Right.
But Minder was great.
Minder was awesome.
He was.
Here are the two girls.
The $100 kiss.
The girl on the left was supposed to, and the red top was supposed to kiss me earlier on in the scene, and right as we're about to start shooting, she didn't want to do it, and kind of put a gun to the production's head and said, "I'll do it for $100 extra." and so she wouldn't do it, and then at the end of the day, there was kind of this awkward feeling between us and those girls the whole day. It was just weird, and then at the end of the day, she had the gall to come up to me and say, "Can I have my picture taken with you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, for $100."
Bravo.
It's poetic justice.
I think it's funny too in this scene. There's a girl in the red dress dancing with the blonde hair. She's the girl who I helped move into her apartment, and she was like
That's right.
dancing with Jeff the Navy SEAL. Like, you know,
We figured you invited her to your birthday party. Gave her a call.
man, I helped her with her moving furniture.
Reveal your position.
And that little fiasco with the girl almost kind of screwed us in the long run because she was going to walk out.
Oh right, yeah, I remember you and Tim.
I had to go in and renegotiate her deal with her and convince her to stay for another 15 or 20 minutes while we finished the day's work.
Yeah, they just stormed off the set. That was kind of it was a hot moment. But here's Yancey. Yancey is another Carnegie Mellon graduate.
That's right. Joe and Yancey both went to Carnegie Mellon University, right?
Institute. I like Institute.
Institute.
I like Institute better.
This was shot in an interesting town in Puerto Rico, doubling for Colombia, and it was a town called Loaiza that was the population was made up of former slaves on the island of Puerto Rico and from the Caribbean, and they all relocated and settled here after they were freed. And so the population was very interesting, and they loved us shooting here. And we were allowed to do things in this town that you could never do in America. You'll see that there's a big action sequence that we photograph here, and in a minute, and we did it right in the heart of town. Everything was very safe, and everything was, we kept everybody away, so it was totally safe. And
But yeah,
people were fine.
you can't set off like huge explosions in front of civilians in America, right? I mean, that's just not general practice.
It's hard to find a little town like this too, this small. Speaking of explosions, yes, this
All right,
one.
sorry, I didn't mean to give that away. If you're watching the DVD with the commentary first, like you're just weird.
Yeah, right. You must have seen it.
You
at least
deserve
once.
it. But the other thing too is that Jeff as a gift had brought me this big engraved machete down to set, and we had done some EPK interviews today, that day, and I brought the machete down, and I mean, there's like an explosion in public. I'm walking around with a machete in a town square. I mean, it was just mayhem.
And all the women kept wanting their picture taken with Joe and the machete.
Yeah, they were like, "Hey, can I have a picture taken with you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." They're like, "Can you hold the machete to my neck?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, you weirdo. Come here." So it's like there's like 8 pictures with these girls with the machete to their neck.
Now this, the music here is written by Joe Conlon, who's a wonderful composer and has done a tremendous job, actually, with sort of giving us a theme for Yancey's character who suffered this tremendous loss, and it weaves its way through the story and heightens scenes with Yancey in it. And this really was the purpose of this in the story is to show that this man has suffered a loss, and he's sort of the Colombian counterpart to the American SEALs, that he's a dedicated man, believes in his country and fights for his country. And I think he's the mirror image of our American SEALs, that he is exploited by elements of his government, and as we'll find out, much the same as our guys are manipulated by elements of their government.
And I think it was great how Yancey played it because, I mean, it would be very easy to pick up that script and go, okay, he's the bad guy. you know, but it's not. He's just a guy who's been through different experience and is kind of coming at this situation from a different angle.
Totally, Joe. I mean, he humanized it so well, and you feel a great deal of sympathy for him.
Morning, sir. Morning.
Notice morning, sir.
Well, now, all of our main actors, well, many of our main actors, you know, Joe and Mr. Kennedy and Chris Johnson, but Shannon Rowe went through boot camp to learn the proper military etiquette and formalities, and also to you know, to learn how to operate the weapons and a little bit of drill too, I think.
Very fun stuff. You know, the best part about that was the actual learning how to perform weapons malfunctions.
Oh, right.
You know, and the nice thing is there was several times when we would actually be shooting and the weapon would malfunction, and you just go through the. You know,
all the training you received, and you just because I know you did
became second
reload.
nature.
Oh, look, we actually do have effects.
Oh,
there.
nice. I just want to say that Chris Johnson did not go through boot camp.
There's Chris right there, yeah, yeah.
And therefore was cursed for the rest of the film, which we will get into a little bit later.
But I got to compliment you guys, all of our SEALs. You know, we wanted to honor the military. We'd read a lot of material about the Navy SEALs and in combat, and we had a Navy SEAL with us, and we wanted to do them right and honor their service to our country, and so we didn't look like a bunch of silly actors running around pretending to be. Yeah. So I got to compliment you guys on going through what you did and constantly working as hard as you did to perform as a Navy SEAL would. And you guys look great. You know?
Thanks, Tim.
But I say that there's nothing more to me, like when I watch a movie, being a former military man myself, and I see something that is just completely wrong, it just grates on you. It's really
I got to say this, Ken. I mean, you know, being in the Boy Scouts doesn't qualify as having been in the military.
I thought it did.
No, you did. You were in the Army, right?
Army Reserve.
I was a Weeblo. Yeah. I don't know if that counts. But I think the philosophy is that if you can appease the military audience, I think you're going to wind up getting all the other audiences.
I think so. And it's just, and you guys here especially did it really well. This scene was about the camaraderie with these guys, the professionalism with which they perform their jobs, and which are extremely dangerous. They involve parachute jumps. They are going undercover into a war zone, and with people who don't know they're there, and get in, get out. So this sets up the whole plot of the whole movie, of their dangerous mission. But these guys, they like each other, they cover for each other, and they take care of each other, which is the SEAL creed, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's a brotherhood, which is kind of, you know, in parallel to the family of Alvaro. You know, kind of him losing his family. This is us. These are our guys. These are our brothers.
Safe location and DEA contact here if you need it. Now keep in mind, FARC's not just some hillbilly rebel insurgent.
Keith David.
Yep.
Wonderful actor from Behind Enemy Lines 2, as well as numerous other films. And actually, Platoon was.
She's out of the problem with the boyfriend Woogie.
That was Joe's impression of Keith David.
I love Keith, man. Keith was awesome. Me and Keith got to hang out in old San Juan one day. We went out and got some cigars and some Panama hats and some
Panama hats.
There's one of the hats right there, actually.
Picture, yeah. And then Jeff rigged all of our parachutes. He stayed late one night and rigged all the parachutes. I guess they were all rigged improperly, and spent hours making sure that, you know, it wouldn't look to the viewer like we would plummet to our death.
Right.
I have to say that all that gear weighed about 150 pounds, and it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you guys, that was one of the most uncomfortable days, you guys, and you put up with it well in a hot, confined little air space there on that plane.
The plane was like a sauna. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, you guys were great. And this is all stock footage that we purchased. No actors were thrown out of planes into the air.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, everybody wanted to do it, but we didn't have the time. We operate on a very limited time schedule, and I think we accomplished a great deal with the limited amount of time that we had. And I must commend the actors that they worked so hard, never got prima donna-ish about anything, and were always willing and ready to do it one more time. And get in the water and get wet here, you know what I mean?
And the funniest thing was trying to actually stay under the water there because we kept floating to the surface. So we actually got some sandbags and gripped them between our feet.
Well, actually, my sandbags weren't. They were
In your pocket.
They were in my shorts. It looked like kind of some elephantitis, kind of Johnny Dangerously style when I would come up out of the water.
Nice.
As long as the water was up to your chest, it was fine.
Yeah.
Now, these are little cameras that the SEALs carry around, and I think it's based on a truthful thing. I think they actually do have miniature cameras they use for surveillance, and we sort of exaggerated the reality of it and have it so that Keith David here can see these cameras and watch what they're seeing.
Tom Minder. Tom
That's
Minder
right.
had to step in, right?
Tom Minder, this is Tom Minder, our military expert with the short haircut there. At the last minute, an actor didn't show up. Thanks, Joe. And Tom performed, there he is, right on the right. He performed for the actor who didn't show up, and it was probably better than the actor would have been.
He's
and he
great.
was fabulous.
He's got I think he's got a career ahead of him. And
But it was great. I mean, I just said, Tom, you want to act in the movie? You want to be in the part? He said, sure, fine. Whatever it takes. That was his motto. Whatever it takes.
yeah, Tom was pretty awesome. We boot camp, just doing push-ups out in the pasture full of
Cow patties.
cow patties.
Every 12 inches there was a cow patty, and a large cow patty at that.
Yeah.
I don't want to destroy an illusion here, but there's a golf course just off stage right. So every now and then a golf ball would sail into this.
Yeah, I want you to kill the gophers. Yeah, this was really fun. This was a fun day.
I remember shooting this scene and thinking, like, this is going to look really cool on camera.
Yeah, man.
And smoke and...
And then in between takes, Shannon would try to surf on the raft. Yeah, this was a blast, man.
But I mean, what's great about this is that you see the acuity and just the hyper alertness that everybody has, and that I had no idea. Matter of fact, when I talked to Tom, I just thought guys would be sitting in the boat sailing upstream, and he said, no. Everybody's just covering everybody's side and back, always monitoring and looking out, and the reality that he and you guys brought to this was fantastic.
Well, we ran drills in boot camp about, your positioning in the boat and who was positioned where, and then how you exit the boat, and, we went over all that stuff.
Well, it was so helpful. I remember coming out to boot camp one day in rehearsal, and we had a video camera with us, and I was out there with Artie Malachi, our stunt coordinator, and watched you guys go through your training and your drills, and it really just was so impressive to me. I said, well, whenever we do this, we just got to see exactly the right way it would be done, and we just do that.
When there's Johnson gets in the water, the big debate, the Jeff Says debate, was over whether Johnson was going to keep his hat on in the water or not. That was the big uncomfortable argument that we got into, and Johnson is actually... when we were talking about him being cursed for not showing up to boot camp, when he actually swam into these mangrove trees to defuse the mine, he, in between takes, he would just kind of stay underneath these trees. You'll see in a second his head, he's going to kind of get, kind of locked underneath them. Well, I'm right under here.
He had a visitor, didn't he?
A mongoose jumped out and went in his face, and the guys were reloading the camera. They just dropped the camera and just ran. And left him with the mongoose under the mangrove trees, and he was just frozen in fear as this thing was probably maybe a foot away from his face, and if it would have,
And they're rabid.
If it would have hissed and ran into us, ran to the right, it would have hit him in the face. But instead, it hissed and ran to the left, and
I mean,
there's signs. Oh, sorry.
We just we went to the most bizarre locations and just jumped in and shot and right there. And it's fortunate that You know, I mean, we took care to make sure everything was safe and proper and everybody was warm, but, you know, it would start raining in the middle of the day. I mean, there's rain all throughout that sequence, and the day we shot this. Here looks clear, the next scene it'll be rainy. I mean, it's just, we just kept shooting.
Well, we heard weird things about the river, too. It was always like, we're going to film in the river. And there were iguanas up in those trees that would cannonball.
Dive bomb
Into the water. And then,
They were big too. They'd be like 3 feet long.
yeah, just cannonball. And then Jeff Moldovan, the fight choreographer, told this story about these tiny microscopic organisms that would swim in through.
If you peed in the...
If you peed, they would swim in through your stuff. So he suggested we wear pantyhose under our uniforms to keep these
let's get to it. Did you?
He was already wearing the pantyhose.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a cover story, I think. Yeah. But this is really very much the way a team of SEALs would come into a jungle area and function and operate.
This was actually our first.
There's Oliver.
Yeah, that's right.
That's Oliver.
And
That's my stunt double, Oliver Keller.
Both Joe and I got back to our trailer at the end of this day. We were covered from head to toe, soaked to the bone from sweat and rain because it would rain every 15 minutes. And it was very humid and hot. And we both agreed that I think it might have been the toughest thing we had ever been through.
Yeah, we just looked at each other in the
boot
van.
camp.
We just looked at each other in the van and just went, day one.
We accomplished so much that first day. The landing on the beach, a whole shootout back at the beach where they were getting, at the edge of the river, and you know, chasing the sun, and way too much work to do in the amount of time. And our crew, the Puerto Rican crew, was great, but not used to the pace that we were shooting, and it's like I'm just shoving and pushing and saying we gotta go faster.
Well, if you saw earlier in that scene too, something interesting that you know, I was the second, you know, as a lieutenant, I was not the point man. I was the second in line, you know, in our group,
Right.
and they carry rocks. And they'll throw a rock and hit the point man to tell him to stop. Oh. So if you see, there's a moment where I throw a rock and hit.
Was it a rock or a piñone?
Yeah, well, we had it was the rock. I forgot that the piñones weren't big enough to throw. We had these weird things in our gift baskets when we got to Puerto Rico. These weird Puerto Rican treats. And it was like, what was it? It was like
chocolate-covered piñones.
And there was like ham slices. They're like, it's like these little candy-coated
and lots of
piñones.
rum.
Yeah,
A bunch of rum.
Ready to move. How's the neighborhood? Quiet streets.
Now this whole sequence really just shows, it was designed sort of video game-esque, you know, to feel and look like a video game in a way, was what my concept was when we started setting this up. And it just also shows how well the team works together, and the modern warfare elements like the Spectra, I think, which is actually based on something. In fact, I don't imagine it's quite so sophisticated, and a lot of it's made up by a writer. But
alien technology.
I got to say, I must commend, you know, Mr. Kennedy this was his first movie, and he settled in extremely comfortably and well. You know, learned how to find the funny aspects of every scene, and you really just were wonderful, and took to it like a duck to water. It was great.
Thank you. It's pretty easy when you got a good crew to work with.
No, we had
and a good director.
Well, thank you. This was a big special effects rig. We leave nothing to chance
Is
here.
that
Nice.
is that real urine?
Boy, that's pretty low there. That's almost to the knees there.
He's a real man.
Yeah.
I'll let the audience guess where I was aiming.
It's wearing Colombian Army fatigues.
Colombians are compromised.
We were shooting on a place called Roosevelt Roads, which was a former Navy base, one of the largest military installation in the United States. And
900 acres, I think is what they said. Did you say that?
Be much, I think, larger.
Really?
And, yeah, because Camp Pendleton's it's thousands of acres, but it might even be 900 square miles. But
maybe, yeah.
they now it's closed, so we basically had the run of the whole place, and the commander. was one of our advisors and helped us a lot and made sure we had everything we needed.
It's pretty amazing too. Some of the buildings were brand new and had never been used.
Yeah.
Like
And it was like a ghost town.
It was like a
totally
bowling
shut
alley,
down.
and there was
church.
like a church. It was just this abandoned church, overgrown. I mean, it's
brand new apartment complex.
It was eerie.
Yeah.
It was eerie to drive through.
yeah.
Pero yo no soy uno de esos. Yo no soy de esos. No más muerte.
Looks like we got big fish. Some kind of peace conference between FARC and the Colombian army.
They're eating watermelon, which is a delicacy in Colombia.
Because it blows up real good.
Yeah. There's Shannon Rowe, a.k.a. Coyote. Jeff Moldovan wanted us to come up with animal spirits that would guide our takedowns and our sentry takedowns. So
Steal the peach.
steal the peach, savor the kill.
Yeah, you guys got into it. It was great. You know, it was really great. For a director, it was wonderful that everybody knew their function and their role so specifically. And I also commend you guys that Artie Malachi and Jeff Moldovan rehearsed you guys with all the fight sequences were worked out in advance so that there was no waiting. By the time we got to a scene where there was a fight, all the actors and all the stunt performers were up to speed, brought it out, we'd look at it, stage the cameras and shoot it.
Yeah. Well, Jeff's so passionate, that it was easy. I don't know if you noticed that scene before where that Jeep drives through the gate. There was
Scary.
Yeah, it rained that day, and there was, I guess, a patch of slick on the ground, like a slick patch, and that Jeep's tire ground into that slick patch as it was hitting the gate and spun out and headed straight for
Ollie.
my stunt double Oliver Keller, who was dressed in a FARC uniform and almost took his head off. He had to drop to the ground, and the Jeep actually smashed right over his head.
It was the closest thing to a serious accident we had, and it was a totally unplanned gag, and I think that that Jeep just lost control in it. But it just shows you how dangerous things are and how lucky we are that we had really, really expert
One thing, and how good of a stuntman Oliver is to keep his faculties, to know that the stunt was not over until it was absolutely over.
And he didn't even seem fazed by it either. That was the funny thing about it. He was like,
Yeah. This was awesome. This was really fun to shoot.
Again, this is all set up and staged and shot so that it shows the teamwork of our men. And the main concept of of telling this story was all from the point of view of our SEALs, so that we feel like we're in combat with them and get to know them, and so that when anything happens to them, we feel it on a personal level. Because I think big action movies are great, but basically, if it's not about the people, a lot of big action and explosions, who cares?
Well, and I think that's so great about, the way that you directed the movie was that there wasn't just this, it's not there's no nonsensical action in this movie. It's all here to tell a story and develop, and that was something you were really clear about when we got down there. Because
it's just about people and how you guys are manipulated by elements of our government, and so is Yancey's character, and it's the humanity is really what this is about.
There's Anthony Matos, aka Greg Armstrong. There's Spider is up on the 50 cal on the Jeep,
which didn't shoot, by the way. That 50 cal is a big rubber gun that we I said just shake the heck out of it. We'll put in the muzzle flashes later.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, there's some pretty good effects coming up here on Johnson. There you go. That's a good one. That's what you get for not showing up to boot camp. Johnson also got a rash in the hot tub. None of us got a rash, but Johnson, he was covered with these strawberry-like rashes. I mean, it really, truly was I think the hotel also ran his credit card up like $9,000. It was just
The curse of not going to boot camp.
yeah. For all of you young actors out there, go to boot camp.
And of course, Chris getting killed right now, getting shot, means that Mr. Kennedy gets to carry him for the good portion of the movie.
Yeah.
That was one of the lines that we had to cut, unfortunately.
Hey, man, I was a lieutenant, man. I got a quarterback. I can't do the heavy lifting, man.
Yeah, and every chance we got, we made sure that Mr. Kennedy carried the real actor.
Yeah. Not the dummy.
He's a huge superstar in the WWE. I mean, he's got to be able to carry guys like this for days, doesn't he?
And then one take, man, your knee buckled like pretty bad.
It actually
it was
it
scary.
locked out. I almost hyperextended it. It was pretty scary.
And this was day 2 or day 1
That was day 2, I think.
Day 2, yep. And we thought, oh my God, we've severely injured one of our stars now on day 2. This is not good.
It was funny because it locked back, and I dropped him. I fell to the ground, and it didn't hurt at all. I mean, it didn't. I just narrowly avoided a major injury.
We were lucky.
And this jungle was intense, man. I mean, it was hot in there.
Yeah.
And it would rain, and the
it was
humidity
actually
would
a
stay.
small little segment of the rainforest. It was a private rainforest because we couldn't do all these the explosions and gunfire in the real rainforest. They wouldn't allow this. So.
The funny thing is, the guy rents it out for like birthday parties and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is just, I mean, like, so fun doing this. I mean, you have those squibs set up in the trees around you. I mean, there's a moment where your brain doesn't know what's going on, and your brain thinks for, a millisecond, like, I'm really being shot at. It's really intense. It's an amazing experience. Highly recommend it.
It's great. I mean, the main thing we always thought about doing this was it's got to be safe. Made sure, and our special effects guys, Kevin and his team, were amazing about making sure it was always safe and no actors were risked, because there's an explosion coming up here that was pretty.
That was pretty big, yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to Jeff Reeves, the Navy SEAL, about going full auto, because usually these guys, you can only carry so much ammo. I mean, these guys get dropped in. They don't get dropped in with food. You basically load up as much ammo as you can, and you really have to preserve it. So, you see in movies a lot of times these guys just holding the trigger down and just firing all these unlimited. Jeff said that in his 7 years of service, he went full auto maybe twice.
Wow.
It's one shot, one kill.
Goddamn setup, man. We walk right into an ambush. Oh, those guys got skills.
This was the end of day 1.
Yeah.
This scene here.
Funny story. I was actually at the Playboy Mansion this past weekend, and Jeff and I, and it turns out in the pool, there were 5 Navy SEAls swimming around in the grotto at the Playboy
Topless.
Mansion.
Go figure.
It was really crazy. It was nuts. Jeff got into these crazy conversations. That was the last thing you'd expect at the Playboy Mansion. Was that Ray Hernandez?
Yes, Ray. Who's a policeman in Orlando, I believe. Or
I think he was a former Miami SWAT. That's
right. A policeman in Miami. And the core group of our people, production, special effects, and stunts, work on a Fox show called Burn Notice, and which I've directed in the past. So the producer, myself, Melanie Graffet, our first AD, and our special effects and stunt coordinator all came from that core group, which made it possible for us to have all worked together before and save a lot of time and have communication channels already established.
I caught Ray one day. I went out to the beach, and I saw a guy wearing a red Speedo and a Mr. Kennedy hat. And I remember looking over and saying, who is that? He's wearing my hat. And I went over, and it was Ray wearing a red Speedo, and Mr. Kennedy hat. So
So it was okay.
It's very big in
No,
West
it
Hollywood, the
wasn't.
Mr. Kennedy hats. It's a very popular
I
item.
had the office send me a huge box of hats, and I distributed them to all the guys. And kind of.
He's a formidable guy. He's a big guy.
He's big,
Ray.
yeah.
I mean, and
Really nice guy, too.
yeah. Everybody was so cooperative and patient under extreme circumstances. It was very hot and very humid every day if it wasn't raining. I think it was cold one day, you know, perhaps one of the days, and then of course you had to get wet that day too. As I recall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were down at the we were down at the bay filming in the water, right?
Right.
Was that day? Yeah.
Doing part of the underwater sequence, I think.
Right. Which we will get to later. This is kind of a fun idea. Oh, and that was another funny Jeff says. Because, you know, Shannon came up and asked Jeff about the tattoo. And you know,
Oh, yeah.
Jeff kind of just, you know, made a little face. And Shannon went, oh, no, what? You know, you know, and then, of course, the joke was that, you know, Shannon's tattoo on his arm wasn't a seal tattoo. It was of a fishing lure with a lobster fork. There's Ken running
This
through
is
that
my favorite
football field.
scene of the whole movie.
Those helicopter shots of us running on that. It was basically a football field-sized, bumpy, you know, there was like these holes, sinkholes in the grass
Grass
field.
past up to our chest, like up to our shoulders.
And we had to run back and forth full speed, you know, about 4 times. And it was like, I mean, I tripped and, I mean, I ate it a couple of times and the butt of my rifle smashed me in the jaw.
Ow.
Ken was yelling,
This
these are the
field
shots
here,
here. Yeah,
right?
that field, man. And then they were like, okay, let's do it again. And Ken's like, no.
We had a helicopter for one day, so we shot part of a sequence where the SEALs are to be picked up by a helicopter. We shot that, and then sent the helicopter off to get every high-angle shot that we could get for the rest of that day. I think we had 4 hours with the chopper. So we ran you guys ragged, I know that.
Ken was not happy. I'll say that. But that's the Mr. Kennedy workout. It was,
Yeah, that was about the extent of my workout when I was in Puerto Rico.
That's coming out on video pretty
the
soon, isn't it? Yeah.
the rest of the workout was, you know, I'd be going to the gym after the shoot, and Ken would be coming back from his workout, which consisted of a Dunkin' Donuts that shared the same space as a Baskin Robbins.
I'm genetically gifted.
You're
Can I say?
you're a freak of nature. I mean, you really are.
See, if I don't eat garbage food too, I get really skinny.
And you get too ripped, I think. Isn't that the fear?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen anybody work out like Joe, though. I mean, Joe was doing 2-a-days
Yeah.
for 60 days before we started shooting. And so all I kept hearing, there's a sequence that's upcoming, we'll talk about it when we get there, which is the underwater sequence. All I kept hearing from our editor, who was in California while we were shooting in Puerto Rico, was every time we start cutting the underwater sequence where Joe's in his swimming trunks and got nothing on, there's women all over this, all around the editing room. It's just like they keep saying, "What? Are you working on that scene? When are you going to work on that scene again?" So I must say that it was very impressive, Joe, how dedicated you are to working out and eating properly. And after that underwater sequence, I think then you said, "Now I can have a donut."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Me and Ken, we had the ceremonial donut together. That last scene was the first scene of first scene of shooting.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's pretty fun.
And you guys work together really well, which is good. I mean, you know, it's I think it's as an actor watching you guys work together, and you know, Joe is really helpful to Ken.
Definitely.
You know, and you guys established a great rapport.
Well, I have a great respect for the WWE. I grew up as a huge fan.
This is one of my favorite stories. Joe's mom asked him when he was a young lad, "What would you like to be when you grew up?" And Joe's response was,
Either a pimp or a professional wrestler.
and they've both come true, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm working on the wrestler thing now. I got to tell that story to Vince McMahon, which was awesome. That was a dream come true.
This is Deep Blue Authenticating. Countersign,
Stingray, sit rep.
We were engaged.
Say again, we were engaged. They were waiting for us. Guerrillas took out some kind of secret peace talk.
Between FARC and the Colombian army.
I need a secure line to the ambassador.
Yes, ma'am. Take me off speaker, now. Stingray, what's your count?
-2-1 capture. Sir, these were...
Now, so Keith comes in after we shoot the whole movie. We've been shooting for almost 4 weeks. Keith comes in for the final 3 or 4 days of shooting after these guys have been run ragged through everything, and all of this interior stuff here in this op center was shot within about a 2-day span, and then the day before that was the helicopter in the final scene, I think. So Keith was really there for 3 days.
You know, and funny enough, you know, during the negotiating process for, you know, after I was, you know, offered the part in the movie, somehow Keith's contract got sent to my agents. And so, you know, they're asking for certain things and getting no's here and there. And no,
nobody's getting
that. And then his contract came through the fax machine. Wow. Right after mine, so.
You sure you didn't have a seal undercover at Fox, maybe, in the legal department?
Yeah, which meant I didn't get a bigger size trailer.
No yellow M&Ms.
Yeah, I got the brandy glass full of brown M&Ms. There's the children's prison.
That's right.
That was a gnarly location.
Well, this was a very strange location because it was inhabited by a group of homeless people who had just taken it over.
And
we had to
were huge
negotiate.
wrestling fans, too.
And they were big wrestling fans, yeah.
And they were still there, still inhabiting.
They still lived there, and we had to negotiate with them to shoot there. And they were emotionally unstable, a couple of them, and so we constantly were...
It's a very diplomatic way of saying it.
Well, I'm trying. So we constantly had to deal with them, this one lady in particular, and
She had one tooth in her head.
Seriously, yeah, seriously.
And calm her down, and, you know...
She kept coming up to me and saying,
Undertaker's gonna get you. Undertaker's gonna kill you. Ha ha. Can I have an autograph?
Yeah, after she just like completely disrespected you in front of the entire crew. Yeah. Can I have a picture? But yeah, this location, I mean, it was intense. I mean, it was there were rats and giant like black widow spiders, and they handed us surgical masks all before we walked in, and when you walked in, you could smell the air. There was just something not right there.
It lived in an unhealthy way for a long time. So we were off, you know, and we cleaned up as much as we could. So it was just, except for their private living quarters, which were on the top floors.
Right.
The cool thing is, I think like a lot of
it's Oliver again.
Oh yeah,
There's Oliver.
Just double.
You'd never know.
a lot of money in movies is spent on sets and set design and stuff, but it was so cool that all that stuff was already there and it looked great, you know, it just really fit the part.
We lucked out. We loved shooting in Puerto Rico, and they're very helpful, good crews and great locations, perfect for this movie to take place in Colombia. This was actually on the Roosevelt Roads Naval Base. This was an old op center that they had used, and we just redressed it. I think, you know, actually was perfect what they had really used it for, so we just redressed it.
And it looks great, especially with all the graphics up in there. I mean, it looks so good. There's our helicopter.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite experiences in the entire movie, man, was having that helicopter. That was incredible. Once again, here's me and Ken running. More running. And this was a rough day, wasn't it?
That was the toughest day.
That was a tough day.
It was day 3, and if anything was going to go wrong, it went wrong on this day. We have a stunt up later in the sequence where he had 3 cameras going, 2 of which didn't work.
Yeah.
So we have film from 1 camera only, but also it was one of those days that just if something was going to go wrong, it went wrong that day. But fortunately, the sequence, we had enough coverage and we had enough film, and you guys were great that it worked out.
And this is like being a little kid. I mean, this is what you dream about when you're in your backyard as a little kid, flagging the helicopter in and getting evac'd out, you know? There's a real helicopter.
We love doing this. Again, we just wanted to make sure, and I talked to the pilots and talked to you guys and our stunt guys. Got to be safe. It's got to be safe.
Ken's hat's about to blow off in a second here.
That's right. We had to determine whether we wanted to keep having the hat blow off or not, because we didn't want him to have a hat after that.
And this will drive you crazy.
These pilots were great, though. The helicopter pilots were wonderful.
I don't think there's anything worse than what's going on right now politically in the op center, calling off the helicopter and leaving us there.
Yeah, this is when our guys have been betrayed by elements within our government, rogue elements within our government. It totally mirrors the situation that's happening in the Colombian government and the Colombian army, and we don't know that yet, but this was a wonder. You know, remember the guy who owned this place? It was a
papaya farmer.
The papaya farmer. You couldn't leave this location without going away with 3 cases of papaya.
And they were huge. They were like the size of pumpkins. They were just gigantic.
He was super.
I remember this one time we were in the hotel and I got a knock on my door, and I opened it and it was Oliver in a bathrobe with a giant machete and a papaya in one hand, and he just cut the papaya open with this machete and went, "Oh, you gotta try it, it's delicious," and he gave it to me.
There we go.
And then these little girls walked down the hall. There's the explosion.
Now, we were concerned about I was concerned about this tree. I didn't want to blow up any trees, but this tree had been dead for years, and the papaya king wanted it out of there, so I said, all right, we'll blow it up then.
Yeah. But yeah, these girls caught Oliver in his bathrobe with a machete walking down the hall, and but that's kind of like
the
how
legend grows.
But that's kind of how it was at that hotel. I mean, we're in Puerto Rico, and there's a bunch of big American,
with machetes.
Oliver's from Switzerland, but yeah, these big giant, wrestler-looking guys, storming the pool at the hotel every night. It was pretty fun, man. We had our own little gang down there.
It was a great hotel, too.
Amazing, man. La Concha.
Condemning the actions of the U.S. military and is calling for an immediate withdrawal of all U.S. armed forces of the region. They've also released this video of a captured American serviceman. It seems talk of peace regarding Colombia's 40 years of internal strife is now all but history.
Oh my God, this is going tits up.
Keith has some classic lines in this.
He does. These are real video cameras down there shooting as this actor. I guess that's me coming in. I get to be the bad guy.
Such a great bad guy, too.
It's Alan Stanwyck.
Yes.
Of Provo, Utah.
Situation. I have full NSA authority.
Alan Stanwyck, damn glad to meet you. Funny thing is, I've been using that line for years, and then my first movie, I get the chance to work with Tim. So, of course, the first time I introduced myself to him, hello, Ken Kennedy, damn glad to meet you. Ken Kennedy, Rush Chairman, damn glad to meet you.
And I think
it always gets a laugh.
My favorite Tim Matheson line was probably, and I've told Tim this before, but it's Mr. Wonderful with a dozen roses for you, and you, and you. Some of you guys are gonna have to double up.
From Animal House, those were we had a great script.
One of my all-time favorite movies.
All-time favorite. And I love hearing the Animal House stories on set. That was like, before, I think it was during boot camp, we were like, man, we gotta get Tim talking about Animal House.
Yeah.
Again, this is back in it was actually a reform school, I think, or it was a facility that housed juvenile prisoners and or convicts, and it was really hardcore. This was a cell that they used, and scary.
Yeah, it was nasty, man. Here's that.
I love that dog.
Yeah.
He's the local dog.
Yeah, that was kind of cool, that take. I wanted to shoot that dog. I had the impulse of, a thing started barking, I was like, shoot it.
You'd have to kill it with a knife.
I have blanks.
Machete.
Yeah, I have to kill it with my hand. This was a really cool neighborhood. That it was the neighborhood you're talking about that was founded by the slaves.
Back in Loaiza, yeah.
Yeah, it was such a cool
This was
neighborhood.
actually part of the church. I think this was we dressed it to be like a repair shop, but it was, I think the priest lived here, or it was a seminary.
And it's interesting too. I mean, every single movement that you have, you know, as a military person, I mean, it's all been thought out before, and there are drills to be run. So even something simple like going into a house or the way you open a door, I mean, all of that is, you know, standard issue. So, you know, there were conversations about every single piece of movement that we had to talk to.
Well, that's what
Tom
keeps
or
you
Jeff,
alive,
you know?
doesn't it? I mean, it's just if you don't have all that training, then you're going to find yourself in a situation where guys with that training are just going to get you.
And how to move down an alley, how to move into a backyard, how to move into a new open space, how to sweep a house. I mean, there are ways to do it, you know. And so those were kind of fascinating conversations that we had.
I always find that it's always the best thing to do to, you know, we had Jeff there, we had Tom Minder there. How would you do this? What are the alternatives? And if we had to take license, but then I would just basically say, let's just do it just like you do it, you know?
Right. Yeah, why not? I mean, some of it has to be Hollywood because of, you know, cameras involved and angles and things like that. But, I mean, but generally, you know, I was pretty proud of the way that,
yeah,
you know, and the way that it came out. Yeah. And now the guy who was speaking on the TV, he's somebody famous in Puerto Rico, right?
I think he was an actor. Yeah, he's sort of a Puerto Rican star who had actually, it turned out, Jeff Freilich, our producer, who produces Burn Notice and is a big writer, producer, director from years and years ago. I think he did Knots Landing. I think he worked with the president of Colombia in Knots Landing.
And didn't he have some crazy snakeskin boots on or something? There's something intense. He had like something wild.
And and it was one of those things that Jeff would go off and shoot that guy on television, or this guy, any of the TV stuff, and Artie Malachi would take you guys off and go shoot helicopter stuff. So we had units going in different directions. We had storyboarded everything out in advance, and then that way different teams could go out and shoot it, and then we would get all this extra footage that would have been impossible on our limited schedule.
Well, I know it's like, I mean, the knife fight at the end, we shot after lunch.
Yeah.
You know, which is, I mean,
yeah,
it was breakneck speed, man. I mean, we had to move.
And to your credit, though, I mean, you guys came to the set totally prepared and totally committed, and were very often asked to go back and reshoot close-ups of it at another location, and pick it up with Artie shooting it, so that we would get enough footage to cut it properly. And you know, it was great to work with Yancey and with Joe and Mr. Kennedy and Shannon, who cared so much that they didn't complain and, you know, go, I already did that. You know, I mean, it was great. It was great that you guys were that committed to it, because it's a testament to how many great shots we got and how much, you know, how great the performances are.
Well, and I think it's hard to really complain when you have actual military personnel on set.
Yeah,
because it's
been
like
through much
That's
worse.
a good point.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of a.
Plus, we're getting to do, like you said, this is the stuff you dream about when you're a little kid, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to complain about.
It is. You get to play soldier, you know. I mean, I've often felt that when I was growing up as a kid actor and playing westerns. You know, it's like, I'm riding a horse here. It's Friday night. Who cares if I'm in overtime?
Right.
I don't care. Let's go. This is great.
Yeah, my whole life is eating steak, bench pressing, knife fighting, gun shooting, grenade throwing. Like, I mean, what do I have to complain about? I'm staying in a resort on the beach in Puerto Rico. You know,
nothing to complain about.
Yeah, you know,
that's a great spirit, though, and oftentimes, you know, we run into actors who aren't that generous and aren't
people
that
forget where they came from.
Committed. You know, I think you're right.
But I think you guys from the WWE, I've noticed. I mean, I know that in college, we were drilled. I mean, they really instill respect in you, and I think that one of the big reasons why I respect you so much, I think why we get along, is that the WWE really has. There is a chain of command. There is respect. You have to respect those guys. You can't act out like wrestler court.
Yep, that's one of the most important things in our business is just respecting people, respecting your fellow performers, and just remembering where you came from, and that it's a great ride, but it could always end tomorrow.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's really smart, and it's so often not seen in the motion picture business. Now, what's going on here is Shannon's been trapped, and he's, like all SEALs, he just never gives up. He's always thinking, always finding a way, looking for a way to get out, knowing that his other buddies are still around and are coming for him or going to try to come for him. He doesn't know where they are. Now here he's going to hop up and put a trident symbol to let them know he's inside of this cell here. And well, there's our satellite.
Ooh, satellite.
All of these special effects, all of these visual special effects were done by a crew in Puerto Rico that we found down there that have been doing commercials and smaller stuff, and we convinced them, and they wanted to. We convinced them to do this for us, and it turned out to great effect. All the visual effects, all these binocular shots, all these thermal shots, and these shots here were done by our special effects guys in Puerto Rico at Reactor, and they're fabulous. They really did a great job.
Now, I love this sequence coming up, man.
Yeah, this is fun.
So much fun.
And this rock and roll music in here was Joe Conlon who decided. He said, "Come on, the Americans are coming." So when the things start to heat up, I said, "Yeah, let's kick it up with some electric guitar," because we had the Latin guitar symbolizing Yancey and the Latin sounds of Colombia, and so this moment is when we've chosen to bring in the rock and roll,
nice.
the American spirit.
Nice. Which I don't know if you know, but I used to be a roadie for a rock band. I was. No, I worked as a roadie for the band called Goldfinger. My buddy is the lead singer, John Feldman, and Southern California rock band, and I used to roadie for them. I worked as security. Basically throwing kids off of stage.
Uh-oh.
This was extremely fun to watch and be a part of.
This whole sequence was, yeah,
great.
We got to blow up this.
That was awesome. And then here comes the parkour.
You know, the nice stuff about a lot of this, the fighting and this fight sequences is that this stuff actually works in a real world situation. Yeah. A lot of the stuff that Jeff Moldovan taught us is stuff that you can actually use if you're ever, held at gunpoint.
And here's some parkour. That was this is a mixture of me and my parkour double, Spider.
That's Spider. Huh?
It was me and Spider.
That's a big jump down there, I must say.
That kid's he's like a monkey bouncing around, and they had me because they had to match me, so they're dropping me off of 10-foot, balconies. And, I mean, this was the end of week 1. My knees were they felt like they were going to explode.
This sequence, we wanted each action sequence to have its own distinct look and feel, and this sequence was based, on a film, an Oscar-nominated film from a couple of years ago, where it appeared that each action sequence was done in one take. So we didn't quite do it in one take, but that whole stairwell thing, we tried to keep it the intercutting down to a minimum with whip pans and things like that. It being done on the schedule we had, we couldn't quite accommodate it, so we get into editing of certain, but it wanted to have a real documentary style feel to it, just to support what you guys were doing, make it feel like this is really real, and this is how it would this is what would happen.
This was intense, yeah.
Real gritty and just.
I mean, we are firing. I am firing. I mean, when we pop in through those windows, I mean, the camera is maybe 3 feet away. I mean, you were just blasting them in the face with.
This was great. I've not had so much fun directing in my life. And
this was my.
Yeah, you love this.
I love.
Kennedy was. Can I drive this? Can I? Yes. Okay, man. Give it
the brakes would give out on that car.
There were no brakes in that car.
Yeah. So we almost got hit a couple of times by the car.
This was good. Ooh.
This was really cool. And now some of this was filmed handheld, right? On a video,
and some of this was just behind the scenes cameras. I think was Moldovan's camera was used. I mean, we used different cameras because we just mixed all sorts of different styles of footage and videos and film.
It's so interesting nowadays. As opposed to say 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I mean, everyone has a handheld camera. everyone. So everyone's kind of shooting their own version of the movie that they then go back to their hotel room and edit together on their laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've got all these amateur filmmakers basically on set.
Here the break. Here's where the brakes almost fail. Right here.
Yes.
Yeah, cut out of there.
We hit the
And the
wall.
car kept stalling too.
That's right.
We had to have Mel, the assistant director, come over, and nobody else on set could figure out how to get this car started. And Mel went over there and got it started like that.
She's great. She was a great AD.
Mel was awesome. man.
Without her, we never would have been able to make this movie.
Totally. Mel was great. Mel made sure I had turkey wraps on set. Because on that, you know, when I was training so hard physically that if I didn't keep eating, things got scary. People's lives were in danger. So I was like, Mel,
Get him protein.
Yeah, give him some turkey.
But you know, her father was a director and a producer, and worked down in Miami for years. You know, did series down there and everything, and so she comes from a show business family, and she knows exactly what it takes for the actors and for the director and for just to keep the wheels on the track.
Yeah. And now we were actually talking about doing a spin-off, Dr. Macklin, MD, where I visit hospitals and shake down the patients.
Again, this was another just empty building on Roosevelt Roads, and a hospital, which I understand they're going to reopen for the local communities down there in Puerto Rico. Because there's a whole facility just sitting there empty.
You understand me?
I understand.
Sorry about what happened.
This was towards the end of the shoot. And by the end, just working that schedule, I mean, I remember, I think Bauer and I were both sick this day. You know, it was like it was just getting towards the end, and it was just so, you know,
well, and
so grueling, you know.
The second Joe would be done with this, we'd grab him and run him over to another unit, second unit or something, and then third unit. So we had 3 different units shooting simultaneously, picking up inserts, picking up Shannon burning through his restraints at the prison, and so this was mop-up time, trying to pull everything together.
But this was fun, man, shooting with Steven. Steven's a trip, man, that guy. First day of shooting, on the way home, Steven played an hour-and-a-half long concert on the van ride home in the van.
I loved it. I saw him getting into the van, and he had a guitar case with him, and I said, Steve, you gonna play for us? Just kind of joking around, and he said, yeah, sure. And I thought, oh, great.
No, that wasn't an invitation. No,
But actually, it turned out to be good. He started out with Hotel California, and he's got a set of lungs on him, man. He can play.
Yeah. We had these like long hour to an hour and a half long van rides
that were pretty boring and bumpy. And it actually made the time go by very quickly.
Well, we were shooting way outside of San Juan. I don't think we stayed in San Juan but a few days, and the rest of this was an hour and a half away. This was a little town. Ooh, stealing
another one of my favorite scenes. The first take, I almost wiped out and almost. I went around the corner too fast.
Mr. Kennedy in a car. It was dangerous. Now.
I just lost.
We closed off all the roads, so we just made sure that you had a free road in front of you.
There's the boiled ass line. That was one of the definite favorites around. We were down there.
I love that car sitting up on the veranda of this house. You can barely see it up there.
Kevin, tell him what you told me.
Guy in charge.
And this was there was like a river of sewage right next to this location.
There was a body or something down in there, or some sort of human, some remains of something down in. This was a location that we lost a location. We had no location to shoot this in, and so I ran around with some of our scouts, and we found this deserted house that was being taken over by the jungle with cars just piled all over it. So we decided, and it was close to where we were shooting, so we just went over there and shot this.
Yeah, the facts. Maybe we get these assholes on tape.
And there's Ken with his brown condom on his head.
Yeah, I loved it.
But at this point, you guys had, it was such a team, the way you guys worked together, and it was really a treat, because I would just say, all right, let's see what you guys want to do here, and then we would just find a place to put the cameras and just make a few adjustments, but your characters were set, your relationships were set, and it was a joy.
Well, and I think that was really the smart thing about how you guys set up the schedule, was that, we had those we started out with all the action first, and I know that was out of necessity, but it really worked to our advantage. Because by the time we had worked that out, we had bonded. It was amazing how much you bond from doing push-ups.
Physical stuff.
Yeah, like
the
do 1,000
camp.
push-ups with somebody and you're friends forever.
It was all, it was originally, I mean, I'm a firm believer in getting everybody together for a week. Like even on Animal House, we had a week together. Our guys, the Deltas, were together for a week, and I wanted that time, and especially to go to boot camp. I thought it was great because this will make you guys a team.
Now, what did boot camp for Animal House consist of?
Well,
what was that like? I want to know what that week was like.
A lot of fraternity parties, and we actually got to paint our fraternity house, and we got into a fight against another fraternity, and just raising hell.
Nice.
Met some of the local females.
Mandy Pepperidge.
Yes.
Oh, God. Greg, is anything happening?
Is that a 747?
Oh, man.
There's the condom on my head again.
This was funny, because we were up on top of that tower, and Shannon's girlfriend, Bianca, is like this supermodel, and she came to set that day, and the prop guy Neil, was like hitting on her, like very obviously, like just talking to her a lot, and
he was just talking.
Shannon was stuck up, and the guy that owned this place was also hitting on her. And Shannon's chair was next to her chair, and Shannon was sitting up here on top, totally isolated, and couldn't get down because it was 30 feet in the air, and watching all these guys just lined up hitting on his girlfriend,
just one after another. And we were up there saying, hey man, like, I bet you I could hit him with this apple. Or, we were like thinking about.
But you were merciless to him too.
We looked over and saw the EPK guys just like chuckling to themselves, like bouncing up and down because they were laughing, and
they'd captured, and they have it all on video because we were all mic'd, and they were just piped into our mics listening to us, threatening to beat these
What
guys
Kennedy
up.
and Joe were doing were doing the voiceovers of what the guys were saying to Shannon's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Hey baby, how's it going?
Shannon, what is that? This is a girl's name. You are lesbian? No, he's right up there. He's one of the Navy SEALs. How many children do you have? None?
Now, this was the scene where Joe, look at Joe, this guy hasn't got any fat on him at all, and because he's training so hard. And look at Mr. Kennedy, he's really angry that Joe looks so good.
I heard him shooting a movie with a WWE superstar. I'm like, okay, man, I gotta get jacked.
But this whole sequence with Joe without his shirt on was always drawing a crowd in editorial, I gotta tell you. This is what I would hear. Yeah, I don't know, all we've been working on is the underwater scene, and everybody over here likes it a lot. Well, can't you get some of that? No, we really gotta work on this scene here.
Hopefully fans of One Tree Hill will enjoy the underwater scene. That was really fun to shoot, man. They were catching lobsters at the bottom of the bay.
Yes.
The dive, because we had safety divers in the water, and they'd come up with these lobsters, and they'd come into.
This was tough.
Bay.
We didn't really have any facilities to do the underwater stuff, and so our first attempt at shooting underwater was too cloudy, and it was, I think this piece, it was from there, and it was too cloudy, not enough light. And then the commander of the base said, "Oh, I know where we can go," and we took the crane and ran down a mile, and it went into just off the coast and right in the harbor, and shot the rest of it. It was perfect.
This big, huge metal pipe got lowered by this crane into the harbor.
Yeah.
It was really.
That was our
pretty
set.
Cool. Yeah. And actually, the underwater sequence was split between, which you can try to figure it out. It was split between me and Oliver.
Yep.
So you have to figure out which one is me and which is Oliver. But yeah, this was so cool to film, man. And Oliver, yeah, he held the camera, and I would fold the camera and shake it like it was the great. And I think he never lets me forget. I popped him in the face with the camera once. But I'm sorry, Oliver.
But again, it was one of those things that Oliver was Joe's stunt double. He was also shooting this sequence, helping us shoot this sequence on a Saturday with Joe because he could dive, and he was an underwater cameraman. So we were doing all of these things, and everybody was performing above and beyond the Call of Duty because they really liked the project. We liked who we were working with, and it was fun. It was fun.
It was really great. And I've worked with Oliver for years. I mean, I remember Am I allowed to say what I worked with him on? Yeah, I mean, I worked with Oliver I've known Oliver since Spider-Man. He was my double in Spider-Man, and I remember them coming up to me and said, "We found your stunt double," and he was climbing this mountain in Switzerland, and I was like, "What? Really? Are you serious?" Like,
he
sure
may
enough.
be one of the nicest guys I've ever met,
Yeah.
too. Just
Great stunt man.
Love that guy.
Awesome family man. Just
Yeah.
some more parkour.
Yep.
Yeah. And Joe did all this stuff, you know? I mean, it was...
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Can we go back and shoot the movie without the condom on my head? It's really bugging me for some reason.
And I'm thinking I'd like to wear a red Speedo this time.
Yeah.
A red Speedo and a Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Kennedy hat.
Vamos a Carlos, ¿qué pasa de afuera?
Ey, parce, el petróleo que nos enviaron está más sucio que agua de fregar.
Savor the kill. Jeff Moldovan would he would encourage us not to just kill a guy and walk away, but to savor the kill. You kill a guy, you have to savor the kill.
I always appreciated the way that Mr. Kennedy kills this guy.
Savor the kill.
But he always does something like grab his head. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just a little flourish at the end. You know, it's a nice touch. It's a WWE touch, I believe. Right?
Yeah. I learned it from Vince.
And knife and teeth.
There we go. I love all the hand signals. That was something I was really excited about doing. Yeah, because as a kid, you're always like, you know, the two fingers in the eyes. And...
What would you do here? What would he do? Yeah. I'd say get 1 minute to get him. Boom, that was that. It was, I mean, Jeff was great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Bueno, olvídelo. Ya todo está bien.
And once again, another manure-covered location.
See you, Tigre.
Got some security guard? Good to see you, man. Yeah, let's do this.
Charlie's Angels, I think is what they called this scene.
Bother to change the factory passcode.
Which would make Ken Drew Barrymore. And
nice hit.
And then maybe it'd be Cameron Diaz.
Trigger the alarm. Carter, you get security. Watch that door. Kill that alarm.
All right, find those big packs.
Got him.
Good, check him.
I think Shannon had a meltdown during the scene. I don't know if you remember that. He just started swearing uncontrollably at the top of his lungs. It was like a Tourette's attack.
Yeah,
it was weird. It was weird because he had to throw a bag to Kennedy as he sees these guys coming up, and he could never remember to do that. It was one of the we as actors. That one, it was like, yeah, we spent a lot of time just getting that moment. But I mean, we as actors, there's so much going on internally that you never know what it is that gets. There's a glitch in the matrix, and all of a sudden you just sort of can't get the scene. But once we get it, it would be great.
Well, and I think, and that coupled with how much we were actually shooting per day, it was kind of like, oh my God.
I mean, you guys, the fact that you maintained the pace we did, and again, this was an hour and a half away from the hotel, so an hour and a half each way. Windy little roads, somewhere up in the jungle somewhere.
Well, once again, man, I mean, probably the most fun I think I've ever had on a set. Ah, nice. Nice.
I was actually shown on the Tonight Show a couple weeks ago. That scene.
Nice.
I got interviewed at the Comic-Con, and they asked me what kind of movie it was, and I said, it's a good family movie, and then they showed that scene.
Well, maybe not. I think we're PG-13. I think, we tried to keep it not too graphic. We have a few moments of, a little bit of graphic. Again, we tried to make it feel pretty real, but kind of like, like a video game, so that it's not horribly graphic and too much for kids,
Speaking of Comic-Con, we Ken and I were down promoting the movie at Comic-Con, and we had an interview set up afterwards, and right as we're about to be interviewed, the guy goes, "I'm standing here with the star and the director of Behind Enemy Lines Colombia," and we kind of looked at each other and raised an eyebrow, like, okay, like let's see how this pans out. And sure enough, about halfway through the interview, the guy turns to me and goes, "So you were in the movie?"
Yeah, he was kind of like the main. Joe goes, "Yeah, I'm the star of the movie." No, you're not.
He goes, no, you're not. In my opinion, this guy over here is the star, Mr. Kennedy.
Oh, we should have just ended the interview.
It's so understandable because Joe and I look so much alike.
Yeah.
And I'm often mistaken for a 6'5", 34-year-old guy. You know, it happens to me all the time.
It's 31.
31, I'm sorry. There we go.
There's me shoveling manure. I shoveled manure for a good solid, probably 3 hours, but I actually used to do that. I used to work for a masonry company. And I would shovel sand and gravel for 9 hours at a time. Yeah, GLA Masonry in West LA. Give him a big shout out. Hey, Gordon, what's up?
No manure was injured in the making of this movie.
You didn't do stuff like that. I just can't see you doing stuff like that.
What are you, Sean now?
Do you wear pink?
Yeah. I told Ken's wife that I worked construction, and her response was, what did she say? She's
I can't see you doing something like that.
She's
like kind of metrosexual.
Yeah.
Do you wear pink?
Yeah, that's what she asked. That was her next question. Do you wear pink? No,
Listen,
Sean.
watch this effect here.
Beautiful.
This is this rocket effect was done in Puerto Rico. Nice.
Beautiful.
Again, Kevin, our special effects leader and team, just all these shots, all these things were done extremely safely, extremely well.
Ooh, that shit worked.
Lots of fun. Blowing stuff up. That was...
Gotta love it.
Yeah. We get paid for this.
Beats flipping burgers.
Or shoveling sand and gravel.
And manure.
Yeah.
Personal training.
Commander, we took our shot. We tried recovering the
This was the coolest location, man.
There was beehives all over the roof of that cave.
And bats.
Yeah. Bat guano everywhere. I mean, again, this was one of those where the actors and myself, I never wore one, but you look around, all the crew would have on a mask, a filter, you know, because it was like, oh, you guys are walking in bat guano, you know, it's not good for you.
It was right across the street from a school, too, and there was a bunch of little kids over there that were all wrestling fans. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was
they
wild.
Were screaming.
Senor Kennedy!
Again, that was in Loiza. That was in that little town that we spent a good 4 or 5 days there, which I loved it, and they loved having us there.
And I sure as hell didn't train you to give up. The bogus intel on the Venezuelan alliance came from Carlos Rivera, Colombia national, and a handler codenamed Apotequil.
Codename Apotequil. The Incan god of lightning. Here's Dobbs.
Do it smart.
May I see your phone?
This is a great, great, great scene.
Yes.
Keith.
You guys worked great together. Just
read my text messages. You don't have the authority to relieve.
Yes, I do. I'm the director.
Actually, Commander, I do.
There's Janice Fuentes.
She was great. She was a Puerto Rican nationalist who works as a congressional aide in Washington, D.C., who flew in. We'd seen her audition on tape and flew her in for this, and she was quite good.
All right, shut it down.
Man.
That's just wrong.
No, man. You're no fun, Tim.
Ah, well, you know, I just had a job to do.
All right, mission walkthrough. Split up in the jungle.
Greg had the overwatch. Greg radioed in our positions.
Right.
Greg saw the black hats coming.
This is the Scooby-Doo. Yeah. You run the whole episode back.
Yeah, this is a recap, just in case you haven't been paying attention. This is what happened.
And I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you pesky kids.
Gear up.
Looks like Stephen Bauer's coming to work.
Yeah.
See? I have proof.
Oh, man.
Are you absolutely sure?
He should be playing a guitar in here and singing, actually.
It should be 5:15 in the morning. He's just rolling up to the hotel in his limousine.
He had a lot of fans and local friends there, you know, in San Juan.
Yeah, he's just like a treasure. I mean, I think at post Scarface, he's just kind of like a national treasure, like
Yeah.
wherever he goes in the Caribbean, anywhere.
I loved having a nurse in the car with him. What is she doing there?
Was she naughty?
Yes.
There we go, and more running. And more running.
Keep looking. It's gotta be here.
We're looking for the evidence and Greg's body.
Shannon always had that interesting way of sort of running, you know. It was sort of like weaving. I guess that he picked that up from one of the SEALs, too, that some guys run like, yeah, they do it like this.
Yeah, sure, Shannon, whatever. Run like that. No, it's cool. No, do it. It's all right.
What's the gentleman do?
1 hour.
Oh, shit. Wait a minute, guys.
Now, we were only allotted a certain amount of shits per movie, right? I mean, like,
Shits and dams.
Yeah, I think you just used up 2 more of them, actually. By saying,
Find us. LT, we're against the mountain here, and the only way out of here is through them.
I can't see holes for this shit.
Oops, there's another one.
Don't lose it.
And now, it takes a lot of work to make us look that spritzed.
It's a full-time job for...
It really is. It was Klaus. Klaus, our
makeup artist.
artist. And he had like Klaus's women. He had these women following around him with spritzer bottles. And they would just blast you in the eye, man.
Klaus's
they did not
Angels.
care. Yeah, Klaus's Angels. Yeah, they would just blast you right in the eye when you weren't looking with those spritzer bottles, man.
It got you in the eye a lot, because I'd just...
Dude.
They'd go over and spritz Joe, and he'd be, God, my eye?
Burning. Yeah, Klaus is amazing, man.
A lot of this stuff here is our doubles.
Right. Now this, again, you'll notice the flourish with which Mr. Kennedy makes his kill. I love the way you shove him in the face after you shoot him.
I prefer John McClane.
Come on, shove him. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You like shoving the head afterwards. It's
Yeah, little pie face.
That's it. It's got a name. It's got a technical name.
It
Good.
is. It's a pie face.
¿Qué me copian?
Now this is building up to our big finale, our big knife fight finale, which you guys worked on for about 6 weeks before we shot it, right? 5, 6 weeks. I mean, all during production.
Yeah.
I mean, you had in rehearsal and boot camp, but then you worked on it all the time before we shot it.
Well, we showed up, and the week that we showed up, we had video, and they actually wanted the doubles originally to do the fight, but Yancey had studied martial arts, and I've definitely done enough fight scenes and fight choreography, and they ran us through. They didn't even start teaching us the choreography. They started teaching us these 12 stabbing movements in the Filipino martial arts. And so...
is that what this was based on, the Filipino martial
arts? The Filipino Dirty Dozen is what it's called.
I actually took Filipino martial arts for about 7 years. True story.
Really?
It's called Eskrima.
Yeah. And so we learned all the movements before, how to, you know, what all the movements look like, how the body moved before we even got into the specifics of the fight. And then we had after lunch to film the entire fight scene, which...
Damn good job.
And it was raining, and sun was coming and going, and...
Oh, man, this came out good.
Ouch.
Another pie face?
Knife hand. Ouch.
It looked real, didn't it?
Yeah.
It did. That looked very good.
Yeah, it's so good.
Do it. Go on. Tell your people the truth. What about your wife? Your son?
Is this what they would have wanted?
I'll be the witness. Death is all I have left.
And then I think at one point during the knife fight, I was actually, my hand was, we had to switch to metal knives, and it really cut my hand, and it was just gushing blood, and you know, we were yelling for the medic, and he was like off looking at pictures on like a camera phone, like off, I don't know
I'll
where.
be
like,
there in a minute.
He's like, yeah, what? Like, we're fighting with real knives.
Jeez.
Now, the fact that I'm beaten up here, this is an entirely different movie.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to see the man who could do that.
Yeah.
We're gonna film a burn notice episode about what happened to Ken between then and now, how he got beat up.
You working with him?
Now this is where all of the Scooby-Doo information gets revealed.
Yeah, this is quite a bit of backstory here.
When I was a little boy.
What's great though, and that you guys came up with, was between Joe and Mr. Kennedy and Shannon, they're still playing communications as SEALs between each other, even if it's the end of the road for them. Even if they're going to die swinging. So they're planning certain little moves in case they get an opportunity.
Right. Well, and then here I got a chance, you know, at 31 years old, I found out that, like I was pretty good at knife throwing. Like I had
really good.
And I could hit the camera in the I think you know the little thing, and I think
box.
And I hit Anibal, who is playing Carlos Rivera. He's the one with the gun pointed at Ken. We actually share the same manager, which is a trip, you know. And but I think I hit him in the neck a couple of times with the plastic knife.
Yeah.
The funny thing was it Oliver that when we were going through the practice, we were diving and rolling and throwing the knife, and he'd grab the knife every time on the rebound. He'd hit like a target and then grab the knife before it hit the ground.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every
You
single
could throw
time.
it in a way that the hilt would bounce off of the target and he would catch it. It was pretty wild.
Now here's the eye signal.
Yeah.
Belong to us again. Alvaro, I will lead us into a new era. 2 lives? What is that compared to the destiny of our country?
One of my favorite parts about this scene was it's PG-13 and Bauer kept dropping F-bombs. He was really feeling it in the moment. We kept having to cut. You can't say the F word.
Man, and Yancey's just so great in this movie, man.
Yeah.
So great.
He made it all so real for himself. It's really a good indication for an actor and instruction just to make it simple, make it real, and he could repeat it again and again. You know, if we had to do multiple takes.
He gave me goosebumps a couple times when we were watching, just because it felt so real.
Well, he carried with him, we never really saw it, it's in one scene, but he carried with him the flute from that first scene from the little boy, you know, so that it was something that was real for him.
And then we were trying to come up with, you know, alternate names, you know, like, was it going to be Behind Enemy Lines Columbia, Behind Enemy Lines Ghost Watch? We thought a good name would be Behind Enemy Lines Smoking Piccolo, after the smoking flute that hit after the explosion. That was one of the potential titles I think we came up with.
That way, I think it got really close to being used. But
Smoking Piccolo.
Yeah.
And then in a second here, one of those...
right here, there's Jeff.
Yeah, that's Jeff the Navy SEAL.
Wearing a Marine outfit.
Jeff Reeves wearing a Marine outfit, yeah. Which was, you know, Tom Minder, of course. was laughing at Jeff hysterically at the fact that he had to wear Tom's uniform.
Well, right here, we just wanted to honor all of our armed forces personnel and everybody who actually does these jobs for real and risks their lives, and so we wanted to accomplish in this scene, character-wise, paying respects to the 2 SEALs who were killed on our team, but also to honor the men and women in our own armed forces that do this for real.
Forged by adversity.
But just keep it really simple,
I think, this scene came out really good.
Serve his country, the American people.
Yeah, there's Jeff.
Protect their way of life. I am that man. SEAL Creed.
There's Shannon in his Popeye outfit.
Well, that was the other thing when I saw it, whenever for that scene where everybody's dressed in a different uniform, it's like, oh yeah, there's those different pay grades, and and it's the thing about the SEALs is, yes, there are those different ranks, and everybody does have a different position, but they really are pretty much all equal. I mean, there's a hierarchy certainly in a military thing, but the SEALs is like nobody stands on formality.
Well, it's one of the few branches of the military, or with a specific training. The officers train alongside the enlisted men.
That's true.
Everyone
Absolutely.
has to go through BUD/S together. The only thing that separates you in BUD/S is, of course, height, where the short guys are in the Smurf boat, and the tall guys are in what's called the Jolly Green Giant boat. Yeah, so
right?
I would have been the Jolly Green Giant officer, I think, definitely.
We actually watched, Joe had acquired some DVDs.
This great Discovery Channel 6-part series called BUD/S Class 234.
And it's just amazing what those guys go through.
Oh, yeah.
It's just insane.
Well, it's like 95% washout rate, isn't it? I mean,
I think there was 114, I think, that started in the Discovery Channel series. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. There was 114 that started and 16 finished.
Jeez.
Jeff told crazy stories, because Jeff was Class 235, the one after that. And he said that, a really good friend of his died in training in the pool. Had a heart failure, and they dragged him out of the pool. I mean, it was just nasty stuff. Guys, broken femurs, and just keep going so you don't have to do it again. The first part of the 3rd week of training is called Hell Week, and they keep those guys up for 96 hours straight doing physical labor to the point where they're hallucinating, and it's just, I mean, that's why, you weren't going to hear us complain on set. I said 2 creams in my coffee. Come on, man.
I think from now on, any film I direct, we're going to have to send everybody, whether it has anything to do with the military, they're going through basic training. That's it.
With Tom Minder.
That's right. Punish these people, and they'll think this shoot's easy.
Yep.
Well, I'm Joe Manganiello, signing off.
And this is Mr. Kennedy signing off, and just like to thank both of you guys for making my first movie experience so enjoyable and memorable.
Well, listen, this is Tim Matheson saying goodbye, and thanks for watching, and we had a ball. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks to Fox and the WWE.